Phil, meet Phil. We got 2 Phils on the pod today.
We're loaded with Phils.
We're full.
Yeah, Phil full. Filthy. Who knows? We don't know what's going on with these guys, but we've got 2 Phils on the pod. Phil Crawford, is on there every single week, but we've got an amazing guest. Phil Sexton's joining us today, and we got Phil squared, so we're in for a good conversation, I think. Welcome, Phil. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So we got, I gave you a little bit of a background of the podcast. Obviously, you're new listener to our podcast, and we're getting to know each other. We met in BNI, in our BNI group, and you have secured the coveted realtor spot in our chapter. And for any listeners that know anything about BNI, when you get into a chapter, you lock down your category, and none of your competition can join, and it's very ruthless. We had like 30 realtors when that seat opened, and Phil won the spot. What'd you call it? It was like the Hunger Games of real estate in that chapter.
That was my first intro to the club. I said, thank you. After you listened to 6 other realtors give their pitch of why they're wonderful, I enjoy being different.
Yeah.
And so I said, I thank you for inviting me to the Hunger Games of real estate. I hope to survive.
Well, you definitely did. Isn't it the fittest survive or only the strong survive? What's the line in that movie? I can't remember.
I don't either. One dude raised his hand, and I think that I was like, oh, I should have watched that movie if I was going to use the reference, but it didn't dawn on me until I got there that it was as cutthroat as it was. I got the soft invite. Oh, come on down. It's fine. A bunch of business people will all be in the room. And then you get there and you realize you have to fight for your life.
Yes. And we got a large chapter. There's about 75 members in our chapter. We're the second largest in the state. And that spot's been held down since we launched 8 years ago. And now you're in our group. So anyway, it's been great to get to know you in the last 6 months or so. And you were a previous client of mine in the payroll business with one of your partners. And now you're off and doing some really cool stuff. But before we get into that, let's take it back a little bit, Phil Sexton. Tell us a little background, where you came from. I know you're married, you got some kids, and let's get a little bit of some backstory here before we kick things off.
Oh boy. All right. Are we going all the way back?
Yeah, all the way back to day one.
So there I was. Let's see. I was born in Arizona. I was born here in Phoenix, Scottsdale and Osborne at that hospital, and went to Mercury Mine Elementary School for half of first grade, which was like the 51 and Shea-ish. And then, actually, before I was 1, my parents did this. Before I was 2, my mom was remarried. And my dad was a cameraman for NBC News here. So he would be the guy in the van that was driving around and setting up, pointing it to South Mountain where the satellite dishes were, or radio antennas, whatever they did back in the day. And then he got laid off when I was 5 or however old you are in the first grade. And he got hired by NBC in LA. And so he moved to LA. And then shortly thereafter, my mom, sister, and I moved. And so that's where I grew up in La La Land. And
Hollywood.
Yeah, Hollywood-ish. Lived right around LAX, a little bit north of LAX, a little bit south of LAX. But that was all good and fine. I knew no other. And then I went to NAU to go to college. And that was 2001 that I moved to Flagstaff. And I moved to the small town of Flagstaff to go to college, and there was a girl from Nikiski, Alaska that moved to the big town of Flagstaff.
That's funny.
And we met there. That's my now wife I think we're coming up on 18. We got married in 2007. So however that math works out, I think we're coming up on 18 years, and now have 3 kids, and we're down here in the Valley. Been here since 2006. And actually Flagstaff was a part of how we got connected, Stephen Harris, with Journey Payroll. Is that that's where I met Nate and Kelly Dominguez.
Yeah.
And so Nate and I were in business school together, and Kelly, the 3 of us were in business class together. And this one class, I can't remember what it was, if it was marketing or whatever it was, we got teamed up where Kelly and I were on a team with a girl, with a third team member. And this third team member, I can't remember what country she was from, but she didn't speak very good English. And Nate was on a team with 3 members that all spoke English. And Kelly and I, in this third part of the grade of this assignment was a presentation of all the work that you have done. And Kelly and I crushed it. And we got 98 out of 100 on the project. We got 2 points docked because the third team member didn't present enough, which I was okay with since she didn't speak the language. And I think Nate got, I don't know what, but not a 98. And so we've been rubbing it in his face for 20 years.
Yeah, he deserves it. Any knock you can get on him. That's awesome.
I was going to say, if Kelly was in the class, I know Nate was, because they didn't go too far apart during their
You're not
tenure
wrong.
there.
Yeah, he's very smart, right? You only need to do the homework once when your future bride is in the same class with you.
So what was the drawback to Arizona after spending all that time in California growing up?
Yeah, you know,
formative years. What brought you back?
It was probably 3 weeks into living in Flagstaff that I looked around and I said, "You mean the whole world doesn't live like they do in Los Angeles? This is fantastic. I'm so thankful that I got that I had that realization in my young 20s, because, you know, so many people live in the bubble, and the bubble is where they go to school, where they grow up, where they then work, and it's all tied in it. And my family was not that way. I've got family across the country in different cities, and it's not always a good thing. Sometimes it's nice to have family close. But what got me back down here was opportunity, was a job. And so after I graduated from NAU, a friend of mine in LA, actually in El Segundo, was a loan processor. And he said, "Hey, I can get you a job over here as a loan originator if you want to move back home." And I said, "Well, shoot, here I am, a college grad, a loan originator. That sounds like something I should wear a tie to. Let's go."
Look presentable.
Exactly. And that's when I learned what a call center was. I was cold calling people to refinance their homes in 2005, and then an opportunity came up in Phoenix. So my dad always lived down here in Phoenix, but you know, I would get back and forth a couple of times a year. But he owned a real estate brokerage here in town, and I never knew what that was, nor did I care. It was not on my radar. Except until there was a mortgage company that was working with trying to get agents at his brokerage to work with them. And there was a job opening at that mortgage company. And because I had this lending experience over in El Segundo, I applied for the job. I got the job. And so then my girlfriend and I's stuff was still in a storage unit. We were crashing on my mom's couch and looking at apartments to rent by the ocean. And when we were looking in Phoenix, you could own a house with a pool, which was like a luxury to have a pool in your backyard. So we said, "You know what, let's go." And so we repacked up all our stuff back in a U-Haul and drove it back across the state line and moved in with my grandpa for a little while until we got our feet underneath us here in Phoenix. And so
here you are.
Opportunity. Yeah. Lending. And shortly after, I think everybody is aware that shortly after that was 2006 that I moved back. The lending world kind of did an about face. And
there you go.
The bank that I was employed by, they shut down. The FHA took over. The program that I was helping them with was not an FHA program. And so that bank had closed down. But while I was at that bank, I had gotten a desk at the corporate office of the local real estate brokerage. And while I was at that we had 4 offices around the valley. There were 750 agents at the time. And so we were supporting this. John Hall and Associates was the name of it. We were supporting all these agents across the valley. And I could see how this company was just a little bit old school in its approach to things. Like, they had cubby holes in the wall at the offices that they would put all the different versions of contracts and all the different addendums that the state would have. So agents would go in and pull these pieces of paper out of the wall in order to write contracts for their clients. And I said, "Why don't you guys put those online?" "Oh, if you want to do it, if you want to put them online, go for it. But, you know, that's not how our agents."
How forward thinking of you.
Yeah. Right. Or just young, dumb, and why not try? That looked like fun, so let's try it. So I went to Barnes & Noble and I bought a book on CSS and figured out how to build a blog is how I started. And then that turned into building an intranet for the company. And so kind of got into the tech world of how can I leverage the internet in order to create more conversations with clients, with agents, whatever it might be. And then people started calling me the heir apparent. And they thought that everybody thought that I was going to take over this family business. But as you know, in the wonderful world of real estate, when the whole world kind of crashes and burns, in 2011, Realty One Group ended up buying John Hall and Associates. And so I had been the director of marketing for John Hall and Associates. When Realty One Group bought us, I became the director of marketing for Realty One Group. And they were in California, Nevada, Arizona at the time. And so I helped them redevelop realtyonegroup.com to kind of syndicate all of the listing data from those different states and the markets that they were in into one cohesive search. That's right when social and business started to interact. And so helped them get set up with all their Facebook pages, and Instagram wasn't really big then yet, but their Facebook pages and their Pinterest accounts or whatever was big back then, their Yelp offices. And then I did that for a year, and the owner of ROG asked me to move over to their corporate office in Southern California. And I said, you know what, man, I got out. I'm not going to go back. And my wife being born and raised in Alaska, we see more trees in our future. And that just looked like more people. I said, I've never been on the streets. I've never gotten into the trenches in the real estate world. And so I've been in this business now for 6 years at that point. And I felt like that was a hole in my experience. And so I said, let me get out there and start to hit the streets and see what this is like out there. And I started working with a couple different agents. One guy, he hired me for 20 hours a week to help him do some part-time web development. 3 days later, we moved it to 40 hours a week. 3 months later, we made it a partnership, and that was in 2012. And so that year, we had 2 agents on the team, and we closed 25 million in homes. And then we grew it to our best year was 2021, where we had 88 agents on the team, and we closed 400 million worth of homes.
Wow.
So it was a good run. He and I worked that team for about 13 years, closed 2.8 billion worth of residential homes here in the Valley. And then just recently I said, you know what, this was a fun run. I'm going to go and do something different. So I've embarked on a new journey at the beginning of this summer, and then BNI came into my world. And so here I am now playing in BNI and meeting a whole new group of people, which is awesome. It's funny, right? Because Steven, I didn't know that your connection to those guys was BNI. And so I was using Journey Payroll back with the team that I was running for years now. And I think I even interacted with your partner,
Jamie.
With Jamie, who's the one that got us signed up. And so once I connected the dots, I thought, man, I love how small of a city this really is.
That's pretty crazy. Yeah, she's the best closer in the business, so no doubt that she got you guys on the hook years ago. But I remember working with you. Probably worked with Ashley mostly, and then I knew the name. I knew your name, but we never met. And then when you come in through the BNI group, I was like, wait a second, I know you. And then we put 2 and 2 together. It was great. I love how that works. And I love you sharing your story and bringing us to present day, all the opportunities that you had along the way, you said yes to, and then you had an incredible one, what sounds like an incredible one. And you're like, it didn't align. You wanted to stay here in Arizona and build something new and fresh. And, instead of going back to California. So talk about that a little bit. What was, your split, and now you're kind of figuring things out back in the BNI world, getting, on your own and developing new teams or new brands or whatever it is you're up to. Are you nervous about that? Was there like, hey, I'm ripping the golden handcuffs like Hercules and let's go? Or was it like, oh man, let's see if we can figure this out again?
Yes, and yes. So was there nerves? Absolutely. Right. There's lots of nerves. It takes years to come to a decision like that. I mean, 13, I'm also aware that I don't want to be viewed as a hopper. I don't want people to be like, oh yeah, you can work with him for 6 months and then he's going to go and do something different. I really enjoy the longevity. I think that real change and real impact can be made if you stick with something for a longer period of time. And you hear Gary Vee talk about patience a lot. And it's something that I try to live is we don't have to make huge changes overnight, but even Darren Hardy's theory with the compound effect. I love that book. I probably listened to it 8 times on repeat in a 6-month period, just because I wanted to get it drilled into my head that small wins daily are going to add up. Let's stick with that. Small wins daily are going to add up. Let's stick with that over and over again. And so, I forgot where I was going now with the answer, but
I love where you're going with that, because how often do you see it with our peers that you start getting into this motion of you chase 5%, 10%, and that's if it's in the same industry, or shiny object syndrome, jump to the next thing. And the cost of that change is another learning curve. You're kind of starting over as opposed to really building a foundation that's going to provide returns from a knowledge perspective year after year. So I love that. I'm curious about you from the research that I did, just kind of prepping for the conversation today. You're obviously a systems thinker. You made this transition into really a technology approach, seeing kind of where the market was headed. Was that kind of a just natural curiosity, or was it something that happened in school or shortly after that led you down kind of this really improving systems and operations and skating where the puck's going?
Solid question. I think it's a combination of both of those. I grew up playing in the dirt. And so I really enjoyed going camping with buddies, working on cars, going off-roading. I drove my car in the middle of nowhere enough times and hit too fast. So I broke it at times that I really had no choice but to figure out how to fix it. And a lot of times the friends that I was with knew how to fix it. And so I kind of got this, I have this engineering side of my mind that really enjoys, I don't know, even when I blew the motor and I had to replace the motor in my car, I'm like, well, let's just undo some of these bolts and see what happens. And this motor comes out and then you put this motor back in and you put these bolts back together. All of that stuff makes sense to me, makes sense to my mind. And so when I was going to NAU, the path, the fork in the road was, am I going to go the mechanical engineering route or am I going to go this business route? And when I would see some of these race teams, we would go to the Laughlin 250 or the Baja 500, some of these desert races, and you'd see these guys, these groups of people working on trucks and getting them all ready to go, the mechanical engineers. And then a helicopter would come in and it would land. And the dude would get out of the helicopter and he would walk over and get in the truck and drive that truck for the race. He was the business guy. Like, which one of these am I more interested in pursuing? Yeah. So I said, let's go the business route. But with that business route, still, I've got that engineering side of me that as much as I love right now, I really enjoy public speaking and I get on stage and I coach agents across the country and I really enjoy that aspect of what I do. But I also have this engineering piece where just lock me in a room with my computer and let me figure out how I can be the puzzle builder of bringing in pieces to help find efficiencies in operations. And so it's a little bit of both. I think that even with this whole AI push that we're all in right now, that's one that you can bury your head in the sand and let other people figure it out and sell you products, or you can be kind of out in front of it and teach yourself about it and not be afraid to get up and talk about it. And luckily for me, I feel like even when you're driving, when you're off-road racing and you're going 80 miles an hour through the desert and you're not sure what's going to come up next, but you know you're going to be able to react. You know you've got this cage, you've got the safety harnesses around you. You're able to correct errors on the fly super fast in order to keep going. I feel like business is a lot like that, where let's go faster. Let's put ourselves out there. Let's make a mistake, because y'all know, I mean, you guys know, your listeners know that you learn so much more from messing up than you do from doing it right again. Oh, I did it right again. Great. What did I learn? I really didn't. I feel like, the whole embrace errors thing, and that concept of embracing errors helps you go down paths that might be scary, like quitting your job after a 13-year run of building a big business and thinking this might be the wrong turn. And these whoops over this way, this terrain over this way might be way rougher than that terrain over that way. But I want to see where this path goes. And sometimes when you go down that rougher path, you get to this waterfall that you would have missed had you stayed on that straight path. And so, I'm too much of a car guy. I'm going to bring it back to these analogies over and over again. So I just apologize to everybody that's out there.
Dude, beautifully said. I thought that whole thing was incredible. You and I are cut from a similar cloth, and the fact that you're challenging yourself on purpose to find out what's possible is what this is all about. And I feel like that's what keeps you motivated. That's what keeps you driven. Staying in your lane or in your comfort zone, you're not growing. And if you're not growing, you're dying. And it's just constantly moving forward and trying to figure things out. I love how you made mention, like, hey, I can get out there and I can talk and I can be like the fun guy and I can do it, but I'm also like very dialed in and very detailed, and you can lock me in a room and have a cave day and I'll figure things out. At the end of the day, what I heard was you just figure things out. And that's a very difficult skill for people to learn. It's almost like you either have it or you don't. And it takes a lot of repetition to just try new things all the time to see if you're a figure outable type of person. So thank you for sharing that. How does that relate to, like, when you're doing a deal, a real estate deal? I would imagine using that engineering type brain and background, like you have the foresight to see what's possible, and you're like breaking it down as opposed to just a transactional thing. I would imagine you operate a little bit more strategically than most. Would that be correct?
Yeah. I enjoy being the pit crew. Another car analogy. This will be the last one. Maybe.
I need at least six more. At least
keep it rolling.
Yeah. I enjoy, one of the reasons why I really enjoyed being a team leader and running a team is because a lot of times the people that are out there doing deals have a different skill set than the ones that are in the office making sure that that car runs smooth. And so the driver doesn't need to be the guy that figures out what the air pressure of the tires needs to be. Let somebody else take care of all the BS that has to be taken care of, but doesn't necessarily have to be taken care of by the person whose skill set is better served going out there and building more relationships. And so when it comes to a real estate deal, yes, there's strategy. It's all strategy. And it's one thing, you can't buy experience. You can hustle your way to knowledge, but it's hard to hustle your way to experience. And I view experience and longevity as two things that when you're young and new, you hustle your way to get those things. And but you dismiss the value that those things bring because you don't have them. And then once you have those things, you understand how sexy longevity is. And when you can look back 15 years or you can look back 20 years and say, you know what, it's a crazy how far I've come. And I never could have fathomed what I would be thinking of now, 20 years later, at that point in my career so long ago. And so, anyway, I kind of
when you're out there and you're speaking with other agents and you're are these new up and coming emerging agents? Are they senior? Are they tenured? Like, what are the type of topics and what are the things you're talking about?
Yeah, all of the above. And back to your comment about what do I do when I'm teaching the team? Like, I will say that there's so many talking heads on stage that will blow smoke and will talk to you about whatever it is without having any proof behind them. And so I sit in the audience a lot of times and I think, well, if you were so good at it, why don't you do it? Yeah. And now I take that and I don't want to be that guy. And so after I left the team back in June, I've been on stage a few times and I've been talking about the things that I did. And I just think to myself, like, God, I don't want to become that guy. And so I'm going to start another team. And I just started another team last week. I was telling you, Stephen, I got my PLLC set up. I got my EIN. I just got to deal with the new brokers that I'm going to go to. And I'm working now on making sure that I have this team because it's almost my proof of concept. So as much as I enjoy teaching other people and other agents and speaking in industry events, I love all of those pieces. But there's this piece of proof of concept that has to exist to be valid, in my opinion.
I couldn't agree more with you. Is what we talk about on this podcast. We're talking heads, but we're both in the business world living it. This is more of a passion project to have conversations and keep it going, because when you think about the potential of getting out in front of people and helping people, which is the intention, right? I want to hear it from people that are in the trenches, that are still building not proof of concept from 5 years ago when the market was totally different. Technology was not where it is today. We need real life examples of people that are doing it now. So I love that. And it's top of mind for us as well in this podcast.
It's just too easy for everybody to get on stage and sound like they know what they're talking about, to be the armchair. What do they call that? The like Monday quarterback?
Armchair quarterback. Yeah.
Armchair quarterbacks, right? Where, I've watched this game. I must know how to play it, until you're into it. And now I'm an advisor. I just had a Zoom meeting with a new company 2 hours before this that is pitching me on being an equity advisor for them. And I love the fact that I've got now 3 or 4 different of these equity advisor positions where I get to come in and I'm looking at their product like you may think that that's what they need from the sidelines, but this is what they really need. I would go left here. I wouldn't go right here. And being able to provide feedback that way, I love too. Help. We just want to help. I just want to help, right?
Yeah, it's like, give me it all. Yeah. You're just like, hey, what's neat though is like every opportunity that comes your way, you're not saying yes to all of them. You're exploring them, but you're not saying all in on all. You just can't spread yourself that thin. But all of your now, or what you said about experience, like, yeah, you can hustle to knowledge, but it takes a long time to have experience. And now you're at this point where almost seems like you're holding up your net. Like you've broken away from the 13 years, you're on your own. You're thinking about what the next move is. You've already got it dialed in to, know where you're going. But while that's happening, you're holding your net up and you got 3 or 4 other opportunities coming your way. And you're like, okay, this is not a bad thing to have. What do I want to do here? And how do I want to navigate this? And as opposed to someone who isn't challenging themselves or someone who's just coasting, they don't know what those opportunities look like. They don't even know what that feeling is to be able to just stand around and think that, oh, Phil, you're lucky, man. You've got a lot of opportunities in front of you. It's just luck. It's like, no, you've been dialed in for years and working towards that 1% every day, as you said earlier. And now all of a sudden, all opportunities are coming your way and you're wondering, everyone outside looking in, how do you get those? Where are those coming from? And it's all from the 15, 20, 25 years or however long you put into it so far. Then now it's like, okay, what's the next move? I've got a lot of options. Now I just got to figure out what that looks like. And if I'm wrong, oh, well, embrace failure, learn from it. Next opportunity, pivot and learn, don't run and hide.
Yeah. And I also live a pretty frugal life, which is helpful.
That's good. Okay. So talk about that. Yeah. You're not flying private. You're not doing first class. Yeah. You're not going to Hawaii every other weekend. What's life like? What's vacationing with the family like?
I mean, of course I say that now. I'm going to tell you that I was in the Bahamas a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's okay.
You're allowed a vacation.
Let's see. We booked that trip when I was employed, so that doesn't count.
Yeah.
One of the guys on the sideline, my son, I have a soccer player, baseball player, and then football. I have 3 kids, but on the Little League sideline last week, he was like, "Man, you don't have a job and you just came back from the Bahamas. I want your life." I'm like, I know it can look good from the outside, but there's a lot of preparation going into this sabbatical, if you will, this break. And I also think that these sabbaticals are such good time to reflect and bring a little clarity and figure out what's really important to you. And so as I was looking, when I left my last job and my last partnership with the team there, I was looking at jobs, and all of these jobs that I'm looking at have some version of like being on stage across the country, talking about their product, talking to their agents, whatever it might be. And it's travel. And this summer I gave myself the window of taking the summer off so that I didn't have to juggle the kids' weeks of summer camp. This one's there, this one's there, this one's there. I just said, let me take this time to not, while they're young, they're 7, 9, and 13, while they still care, while we both still care.
Yes.
Let me hang out with them. And so now that I've taken that break and I was looking at those other jobs, I said, hold on. One of the things that's really important to me is right now in this window, I probably have 10 years left of kid activities that I want to be at. Yeah. And I want, just yesterday, my youngest, she says, "Dad, will you be the chaperone of my field trip next week?" Yes. Yeah. I want to design.
You say yes to all the kid stuff, man, for sure.
Yeah, but
you just have to.
Depending on, so right now I've got that, what am I going to do? What direction am I going to go? And he say, if I build my own thing, then that continues to have the freedom for me to say yes, as opposed to getting too locked into a corporate structure somewhere. So that was a part of figuring out what I wanted.
That's alignment. Yeah.
What was important to me, which makes it easier for me to say, yes, I want to build another team, because that gives me the freedom to say yes to my kids' activities.
And I think that's one of the concepts we talk about a lot too, is life design. It's you can get caught up and drift so easily with whether it's lifestyle creep or a career path that just keeps kind of edging because it's the next step. But that intentionality about what's important, I think it's rarer than we realize. I know that it takes awareness and these type of conversations to keep it ever present. With that being said, I think the other piece that, and you both have this, we've talked about the engineering and systems thinking, which I envy, because that is a lot of work for me, that side. But you both have a combination to be able to turn it on or off, both getting on stage, obvious communication skills. I guess, how do you keep that? Does that turn on and off naturally for you too? Or is that a part of the life design of, okay, I got to go systems thinking now, I'm going to put on my public speaking and communications hat? Or how does that work for you?
You got to say yes to the opportunities that present themselves, right? Unfortunately,
you two are 2 peas in a pod.
with a lot of these speaking engagements, I'm doing the 2025 Trend Summit next Friday with the Arizona Realtors, and AAR, Arizona Association of Realtors, they reached out and said, "Hey, are you interested in doing this?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Great. Would you come in so that we can figure out what it's going to be?" So we designed this program where I'm going to do 40 minutes. This other guy who's a nationally known technology company founder, like, I would love his path is great, right? I'm at 20 years. He's probably at 40 years. Let's be real in the industry. And I got him coming to do 40 minutes. And in the end, the two of us are going to debate that 40 minutes. I didn't get to decide when that event was. I didn't get to decide that it fit in my schedule because it wasn't in conflict with something else that I had going on. It just worked out that way. What I did get to decide was whether I want to take on the anxiety that comes with that every single time and the work that comes ahead of that so that I don't show up and be a chump. I want to show up and I want to do great. I want to get invited back to another one. I want to make an impact so that these people have a positive impression of if they see my name is on the agenda, they have interest in showing up to these events. Because ultimately, the more that I have of that out there, then the more I'm going to be okay, regardless of what life throws at my way.
That's 100% true. Yeah. Preparation for those types of things. Like, I was just going to ask you, do you feel you still get anxious before every single one?
Yes.
Yeah. It doesn't matter how many times you do it. And I know you've been on stages more than I have. I've done some small local things, and it doesn't matter. Like, the preparation for it, like you can be as prepared as possible and still be anxious for it, still be nervous for it, but that's because you care. But imagine if you didn't prepare for it at all, then it's like, oh my God, you're totally screwed. Like you have to be able to, nothing flows exactly how it's going to go every time you prepare for it, but you have to prepare so well. So when things go off kilter a little bit, you can pivot and still no one even notices that you went off subject or off topic or whatever. And you can bounce back to whatever bullet point you've got in your repertoire to that way it sounds great. And people want to see you and they want to feel impacted and leave positive. And, but it's funny how you get the butterflies, man. It's just like playing sports too. Like, I played basketball all my life, and before every single game, I'd still get I'm in a men's league at 40 years old, and I still get butterflies before my game. Like, it's just, you want to perform well. You want to play well.
Yeah. Back in the John Hall and Associates days, when I was 26, 27, we had 4 branch offices. Every Tuesday, we would be at a different branch office. And I first started by listening to the presentation. My dad was the broker, and he would go in and he would talk about the boring broker things like contract updates and market stats. And he would hand out pieces of paper. And I said, hey, could I get a laptop and a portable projector? And like, let's make this a little bit more interactive. Sure. Then when I built that intranet, it turned into, hey, Phil, you should probably. You should
By the way, that's his tagline, and that's how he won us over. Everyone in BNI has a tagline. Mine's "Your Journey to Better Payroll." Phil's is "Hey Phil." That's it. It's great.
Nate is the one that gave me that tagline because I usually said yes. Whatever came after "Hey Phil," I was like, yeah, let's try it.
Yeah. It works.
You wanna whatever. So anyway, I started to present at those meetings. And so now every single week I got in front of a group of agents with a microphone and tried to bring value. And the number of times that I sucked was a lot. And those are the losses that you realize. And even some of the other presentations, that once you get comfortable in that forum and then somebody invites you over to this forum, you think, oh, well, I'm comfortable in this forum, so it's going to transfer over to this forum. And then you show up there and it's different faces and it's a different room and it's a different volume of microphone, whatever it might be, it's just different. And you have this internal freeze of, I did not prepare well enough for what I am doing right now. And I need to not do this again. Not do this again. And so you fail forward.
Absolutely. I mean, and you have the repetition now to where you'll get past those and learn from each one. Curious what you're
nervous at BNI. You got to do a 30-second commercial at BNI every week. And I'm like, first of all, I don't want to say the same thing every single week.
I don't either. I try to come up with something new every single week. There's guys in our group and gals in our group that will say the same thing, but be creative.
Some people say the same thing every week, and sorry, I have chapstick in my hand, and they read it every single week. I'm like, I've heard, I could almost say your spiel at this point.
Do you prepare, like, do you memorize it before coming into the meeting? Like, you've got it dialed in, or are you coming up with it on the fly?
Both.
Yeah, me too.
I have an idea of what I want to say, but I don't have it memorized. I don't do a 30-second practice. I did a 30-second practice run once. And it didn't come out, it didn't feel good after I said it. And I just feel better if I go in there prepared. If I understand the topic and I understand my time constraints, then what comes out of my mouth improv on stage is going to feel better to me than if I overly prepare and I give a script.
Try to memorize exactly within 30. I have 100%. It's stories, man. Like, it's your world. It's real world stuff. You're not making stuff up. And that's what makes it easy, is because you're sharing stories. And you just got to do it in 30 seconds. But every single week, it goes around the room like, sometimes it'll be playing off other members or whatever. But like even this last one, I was like, okay, I want to come up with something clever. What can I come up with? It's like an acronym. And I came up with an acronym, and then you just like spit it out and you're like, okay, that worked. And everyone loved it. But it's something different every single week. And I think if you don't come up with creativity, if you're not sharing your creativity of your business and trying to generate referrals and develop the relationship, people, they just don't see you unless you've got something new to share every single week. Even if it's the same product, it's just a different spin on it.
Yeah. And how many times have you heard a real estate agent say, if you know any buyers or sellers,
yes,
please refer them to me? I don't need to stand up and say, if you know anybody that's thinking of moving in the next 6 months, please have them reach out. Yeah. It's exhausting. And then it also, I don't feel like it actually showcases who I am as a person, where I try to I'm an energetic person.
No.
I'm blessed because
you do a great job.
Thank you. But my nerves come out. Luckily, my nerves come out as enthusiasm. And so anytime you see me on here, I'm excited. Yeah, dude, I'm nervous. We're in front of an audience that I'm not familiar with.
Yeah, I feel you there. I think, again, it's just figuring it out and putting yourself in front of in difficult situations, find out what's possible, what you're capable of. And in the end, I think that's what it's all about. And I love hearing the stories about that.
So Phil, back to your question of how do I turn it off between engineering and speaking? Speaking is engineering, man. Speaking,
that's a cop-out answer, but I love it.
Not, man. Like you got to be like the wonderful flow of what you're going to do when you've got 40 minutes. You got to engineer something that's followable. And in the beginning, I would fire hose people. I would just give them as much as I possibly could because look at how much I know and you should know all this stuff too. And when I saw how little it was, the audience was able to implement that stuff, I had to re-engineer my delivery. And so now let me come back to the drawing board, and that didn't work. So now let me try something else. And so once you have that mind, it's not like it turns off it's not like it turns off.
And it's like, what are the stories you want to tell? What's the inflection in your tone, your voice? When do you get quiet? When do you pick your speed up? When do you slow it down? And it's like, that's how people relate to you as a speaker. And they don't really remember everything that you said, right? They may take some notes and some nuggets and takeaways, but they're going to remember the positive impact you made and how you made them feel. Right?
That's it, dude. That's the classic line. They don't remember what you said, but they remember how you made them feel.
Yeah. And so when the faster I realized that, there's two things that I remember in my career, entrepreneurial career, was the faster I realized that when you get in front of a room of people, no matter what, if you can leave at least one person with a positive impact, I can be happy with that. They're not going to remember what I said. It's always how you made them feel, right? And so just focusing on that, like how can I put together an impactful presentation, whatever it is. It can be anything that I'm talking about. It could be a 30-second commercial. It could be a 30-minute spiel. It could be an hour and a half, whatever it is. A 2-hour workshop. Phil and I have done 2-hour workshops before last year with local emerging entrepreneurs and individuals striving for success and life design and things like that. We built out a whole program. But they all left inspired, and that was the goal. But the faster you remember that, doesn't matter and then you learn from it and put different pieces together. That was the first thing. Second thing that I learned is that when you're selling out there to people who like perceived CEOs or owners of businesses or bigwigs or whatever, the faster you realize that they're just people too, and they're human beings, the easier it is to have a conversation and develop a relationship with them. And that was something that's learned if you're a young salesperson or even a seasoned salesperson, you're nervous to talk to somebody because you think that they're more successful than you or more wealthy than you, or they have a bigger business than you or whatever. That shit does not matter. The faster you realize that they're just another human being as well, and they go through the same crap that you go through, maybe on different scales or whatever, but they've got feelings, they've got families, they got things they're striving for, then you're able to develop that relationship because you can become relatable. And those are the two biggest things when it comes to speaking and selling, that you realize those two things, how you made them feel and realizing that they're just another human being as well. I think you can find a lot of success.
I'm going to add a third.
All right, let's get it.
I agree with 1 and 2. And number 3 is I got a bird that sits on my nose and it pecks my forehead whenever I'm in an audience. And that bird says to me, what's in it for them? Why should they care? Why should they care? And so when you're talking about whatever the point may be, you can't just make that the point. You got to wrap it back into, and why should they care? How can they use this information?
Because their life depends on it.
Because their life depends on it. Their business depends on it. Their marketing depends on it. Their sales depend on it, whatever it might be.
In that kind of theme, what does your kind of information diet look like? Or are there speakers that have really influenced you the way you take stage? Any models of excellence you have to share with the audience?
Wow. I'm kind of an ad hoc information consumer. I I should be more intentional about that, but I'm not. I'm a normal consumer, and repetition works. And when I hear the same book mentioned multiple times, then I'm curious enough to go get that book. I wish I could just hear something and execute, but I'm normal. And repetition is a wonderful thing. And so I've always heard about the 7 habits of highly effective people. And I thought, I can assume what those are. I'm not interested in that. And then this last journey of me having this break, I said, I wonder what that book actually says. It got brought up by somebody recently when I was on a panel and somebody mentioned it. And I thought, okay, maybe this is the season that I get into that book. I really enjoy it. I am still working through it. I think I'm on chapter 12, and I'm pleasantly surprised by how wrong I was on what that content was. Even though it's not new, Stephen Covey's been around. That book's on its
evergreen,
18th edition, but still focusing on things in quadrant 2 that are not urgent but important, is like a mind shift for me in this space right now. And I think that that's important to know, is that sometimes you consume content that doesn't hit you because of the phase of your life, your journey that you're in. Sometimes you consume the exact same content and you're in a different phase of your journey. And it's like, how did I not hear that the time before?
Absolutely.
That's so true. That's so true. It just depends on where you're at in life. Yeah.
And I got one more piece of it, is that I think myself, what I have learned is that I am too eager to predict where content is going that I can't always hear it the first time through, because I'm trying to predict where it's going. And so that second time through a book, I don't like doing books once. I think that the first time through a book, I'm just trying to figure out what they're saying. So then the second time through a book, I can actually hear them. And that's one thing that I've learned about myself when it comes to content. Same with movies. Same with that's just
absolutely.
Anyway.
You're different phase of life. Yeah.
Everybody that's listening to this podcast, once you get to the end of it, if you start it over and listen to it again, you're going to hear different. Your notes are going to look a little bit different your second time through, because you kind of know where we're going, so you can calm down a little bit and listen and be in the moment.
Okay, so you hosted a podcast. You did 180 episodes. Phil, did you know this? You did 180 episodes.
You told me, yeah.
Yeah. What, you stopped, I think, a few years ago. But was it weekly, or how many episodes did you do a week?
It was weekly, but sometimes we would bring in additional, not just once a week, and then sometimes we went on vacation. But weekly was our goal.
And you guys did like live Q&A stuff too. It wasn't always pre-recorded.
Right. We broadcasted it. We recorded our Zoom. We recorded a Zoom where we invited everybody from our social, from our database. If you guys want to come, it's going to be 2 agents talking about this business and talking about the inside baseball, if you will. And so come on, join us, bring your questions, because we're going to tackle this hot topic of the day, whatever the hot topic of the week was.
So when you did that every week, 180 episodes, 180 weeks, let's say, just for topic's sake, that takes a lot of consistency and discipline, right? Like to be able to do something 180 times in a row, week in, week out. We're on episode 125, 126 now. This will probably be 127, I think, when it drops. We've learned a ton from developing, and it's translated in many other areas of our lives. What did that teach you, and what did that translate for you when you did 180 episodes? And as you're going through it, how did that develop discipline and consistency? Or did you already have that from other areas, and that's why you started the podcast? Did you learn anything from that?
What did I learn from doing the podcast? I learned about being intentional is the best thing that I learned from doing the podcast. So, we all know the compound effect. We all know repetition is what is needed in business. You got to do the simple things over and over again. You don't always have to shoot for the moon. And the people that are consistent are the ones that win. So you can go into it with that idea. But then what happens over the years for us is, why are we doing this? What is the actual goal of what we're trying? I'm not trying to just get some collateral damage of me becoming better because I have consistency in my life. I'm trying to have some intentional benefits of, what is this bringing me? And are we actually hitting those metrics? Is this bringing more agents on our team? Is this bringing more visitors to our website? What is measurable that I can say, you know what, the time, energy, and investment that we make in this is actually helping us to achieve these predetermined business goals? And one of the reasons why we stopped, one, is because after 180 episodes, we said, you know what, that was a good run, but we weren't able to convert that audience of listeners into enough of our measurable objectives. So we said, let's try something different. And I think that's another talked about Avenue in business is you got to be able to pivot. Just because we liked doing the podcast, we liked getting on there every week and having an audience that we were interacting with. But is it actually helping us achieve our goals? If not, let's make a pivot. Let's adjust. Maybe we pour more into social this time. Maybe we pour more into our email. Maybe we pour more into open houses or whatever client events that we were neglecting because we were spending so much time on this avenue. And so don't be afraid to pivot, but also be patient enough to give it enough time to work.
That's a great answer. I like that. All right. We got one final question for you, Phil, as we wrap up here.
That's it? We're out of time already? Dang it.
Out of time. We could talk for many more minutes,
this one could definitely have a part 2. I could see that.
It's been part 2. Let's at least cliffhang them on part 2. Would you?
Yeah, we will. All right. So we got one final question. We ask this question to every guest. And since you never heard a single episode of ours yet, you're going to go back and you'll start hearing some others. The final question is, what does success mean to you?
What does success mean to me? At this point in my life, this point in this year, this point in my family, success means to me that I have the ability to say yes, to do the events, to show up for my kids. And if I can provide them with presents on their birthday, dinners, my wife, dinners on our anniversary, reliable transportation to and from places, and showing up and being able to participate and be an active member of what they're into right now, buddy, what's better than that?
Not a whole lot. Cheers.
Great answer.
That's a great answer. All right, man. This was awesome. Thanks for the conversation. Thanks for hopping on.
Absolutely.
I know we'll be seeing each other week in and week out now that we're officially in the BNI. You're in the BNI seat now.
Secret handshake. I don't know.
But I think it'd be cool to share kind of what do you got coming up? What are your next speaking engagements? And we'll post them in the show notes too. Where is it only for realtors, or can anyone show up, or what are they primarily?
So this next one is put on by Arizona Realtors. It's pretty much It's a realtor event. Let me think. What have I got? I'd have to look at the calendar. I don't know. I've got I got a charity event coming up in April. You know Jeremy Clevin?
Oh yeah. Jeremy, we know Jeremy well. He was on the pod earlier this year.
Right. So was he episode? I don't know. I'm just kidding.
78 or 97 or I don't know, somewhere around there.
So Jeremy and I are co-hosting a fashion show. It's a little bit mind-blowing to benefit the Halo Animal Rescue. And that's in April, which I'm really excited about that because I think that they're going to have to clearly assist me with fashion if I'm going to be a host of a fashion show.
That's going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. So yeah, between this AAR event that's coming up and that, the good news is it gives me a window to put my head down and grind on this, getting my team up and running and off the ground. That's what I'm most excited about right now. I named my next real estate team.
What is it?
Next.
I love it.
And I think there's a lot of play around who's next, what's next, I'm next, we're next. I also want to do a little bit different of a structure to support the agents. And I really view it as the next version of teams that is going to catch on, that is going to become the norm. And last but not least, if I can be the next operating system for these agents, these race car drivers that are out there winning, I love the fact that Next OS is just a different way to spell, reusing my last name in a little bit different way.
Oh, that's so true. That's very well played. That's awesome. Dude, congratulations. I'm excited for you. That's going to be cool. I like the Next OS, the next operating system, giving them freedom to build, and you're on the back end supporting them. It's great.
I want them to be the brand. That's the biggest difference is the teams that we've all heard of. It's the last name teams. I didn't want to have another last name team. I can name you 6 last name teams very easily. I'm ready to do something different. Let's be next.
Sweet. Cool. Well, thanks for coming on.
Really appreciate it. So great to meet you, Phil. There's a part 2 in the future.
Yeah, I love it. I think that some of this AI, what we're seeing with AI should be a part of part 2.
We didn't even get into your AI art career, but yeah, that'll be for part 2.
Nice
cliffhanger. All right, part 2 AI art. I love it. All right, guys,
we'll be back at you next week.
Adios.